Hello everyone, welcome back. My channel is about taking you through the thinking process of a chef. And today we're taking on the challenge of cold brew coffee. It usually takes 16 hours of extraction, but with sous vide, we can cut that down to 2 hours. At the end, I'll also show you how to make a blended ice cream drink with your cold brew. It makes for a great drink now that temperatures are higher. Now, I'll talk more about the advantages of sous vide, but first, let's jump into it. We've got to talk about grind size. One of the reasons that I wanted to make this video is that many other cold brew coffee videos gloss over some of the technical details, but those details are the key to maximum flavor. So grind size has to be large, similar to a French press. The reason is that we are using time rather than temperature to extract the flavor components, and a large grind is optimal for that process. Here, I've got my Encore on a setting of 20, which is pretty large. It's the right size for the Chemex, which is what I'll be using for the filtering. This machine is a workhorse. It's got a burr grinder that produces very consistent results. Next, do we go with light roast or dark? It really depends on your taste for different reasons. Light to medium roasts are naturally more acidic, but the cold brew process leaves those out. So then you would be using the cold brew method to your advantage. However, a dark roast will have a richer flavor like chocolate or earthiness. Try out both and see what you prefer. So I'm going for a coffee to water ratio of 1:8. Let's start with 85 grams of coffee, and look at that grind. Perfect for a sous vide cold brew. The next step is pretty simple. I'm using this super heavy vase. It's so heavy that it goes right into the water without any float. Another great option is a mason jar. That works great because you can cover it with a cheesecloth and have it ready for filming. The recipe for this brew is 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. If you think 2 hours is a long time to wait, remember that the usual method takes anywhere from 16 to 24 hours. And this is a good time to talk about why sous vide is such a great method for cold brew. I mentioned before that we are using time rather than high temperature for the extraction. Here's the reason. The lower temperature allows the sweeter flavor compounds to dissolve into the water, but the oils and acids stay in the beans. That's because they have a harder time dissolving at low temperatures. And that's the rationale for cold brew. You get a smoother, tastier drink without the bitterness. Now with sous vide, we are still applying some heat, but experience has shown that 150 degrees Fahrenheit is a great compromise temperature to extract the sweet flavors and leave the bitterness behind. And we're still brewing at a faster rate. So we've moved the needle from 16 hours to only 2. That's the science behind this method. I know it sounds a bit funny to call it cold brew, but remember, it's about lowering the temperature just enough to leave behind most of the oils and acids that cause bitterness. We don't really need to have fridge temperature. I'm using the Chemex for the filtering, but you can use any reasonable container. And any typical filter will do. Since we're not using a hot brew method, you have more flexibility in the filtering. I like to use a metal filter to save on paper waste, but I found sometimes it's not enough. So I also use a cheesecloth to block out some of the finer grinds. And of course, that's also reusable. It's important to understand that what we brewed so far is a coffee concentrate. So it's expected that we dilute it with water or creamer, or my favorite, using ice cream. So let's take a look. I don't have a fancy ice machine, so this will do. And I go for equal parts coffee and cream. Here I added a bit too much, so it came out sweeter than I like. Now let me show you the ice cream version of this drink, which is amazing. I'm using coffee ice cream because you can't get enough coffee, right? And there you go. Please go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.